Hey folks, welcome to my second Sonic biographical video. In the first video I talked about the history of Ashura the Hedgehog, and in this video I want to talk about the history of a character I was fascinated with at roughly the same time in the 1990s, Supersonic. But not just regular Supersonic, the evil interpretation of Supersonic who appeared in the UK's Sonic the Comic. It seems like I'm not the only one with this fascination. Fleetway published the UK comic, and if you type Fleetway Sonic into Google, all of the images are of evil Supersonic. Fleetway had a lot of cool characters and storylines that were totally unique, but their long-form storytelling with Supersonic was pretty exemplary, and it took the character in a really interesting direction that was never explored in the games. Not to mention, evil Supersonic's disturbing appearance is pretty hard to ignore. What made Fleetway's Supersonic so interesting? Why does he have sinister red eyes and fangs? Is he a totally different character to Sonic himself? Strap in and I'll answer those questions for you and more, for this is the tale of Fleetway Supersonic. For those that need a little bit of a Supersonic catch-up, Super first appeared in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in 1992. After collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds from the special stages, players could transform into Supersonic after getting 50 rings. Supersonic is superior to regular Sonic in every way. He's faster, he can jump higher, and he's invulnerable to most damage. In later games, Supersonic gains additional abilities too, like the ability to fly and survive in space. Supersonic's main disadvantage is that he requires a constant supply of rings, as the ring counter will slowly decrease the longer you play as Super, and you'll be back as regular Sonic when it reaches 0. Super was originally inserted into the game as a bonus for players talented enough to collect all of the Chaos Emeralds, but his lore significance has only grown since his humble debut, and Sonic's super form has become a fixture of endgame bosses throughout the series. One thing that doesn't seem to change when Sonic transforms into Super is his personality. Supersonic is kind of like one of Goku's Super Saiyan forms in Dragon Ball Z. He's stronger and more capable, but there's no discernible personality change after the transformation. Oh, and just like Goku, Sonic's eyes turned green when he transformed into Supersonic in Sonic 3, and Sonic's quills point upwards too, just like Goku's hair. It's no secret that a few things in Sonic were inspired by Dragon Ball. That brings us swiftly on to Sonic the Comic, a British comic published by Fleetway between 1993 and 2002. Fleetway were a big publisher of children's comics in the 1990s, but they were also responsible for publishing 2000 AD, home of Judge Dredd, and probably the UK's best known comic. Sonic the Comic was going to be just one of many licensed publications put out by them, but it's developed a legacy that's outlived all of Fleetway's other publications. Just like with the Archie comics, UK Sonic the Comics writers were given quite a lot of creative freedom to present Sonic's world and characters however they wanted to. Though whenever a new game released, the comic would always present readers with a vague adaptation of said game. One of the most interesting alterations Fleetway made to Sonic is their interpretation of Sonic's super form. Supersonic first appeared in issue 7 of Sonic the Comic, which takes place shortly after the events of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. During a battle with some badniks in Oil Ocean Zone, Sonic falls into the oil, which is then ignited. Onlookers suspect that Sonic might well have died, but it's revealed that Sonic actually survived because, in a moment of stress, he transformed into Supersonic, subsequently going on a rampage, destroying badniks, but also threatening to assault one of the furry critters that Sonic usually protects. It's only the soothing words of Tails, reminding Sonic of his heroic side, that causes the maniacal superform to subside and Sonic to return. In this first appearance, Supersonic is noticeably different to his video game counterpart. Often snarling or scowling, Supersonic had swirly, hypnotic red eyes. Tails explains that he's witnessed Sonic transform into Supersonic once before when he absorbed too many rings, but here it seems like a state of stress triggered the transformation, and later on in the comics, It's often an exposure to powerful Chaos Emerald energy that triggers the transformation. Whatever the case, Super Sonic has a totally different personality to Sonic. He's more feral and dangerous, and indiscriminately likes to destroy things, whether they're badniks or friendly creatures. He just has an insatiable appetite for destruction. Does this version of Super Sonic remind you of any other comic book character? No prizes for guessing that Fleetway's Super Sonic was inspired by Marvel's Incredible Hulk. The parallels are pretty obvious, and I won't labour the point too much for the rest of the video, but suffice to say, the relationship between Sonic and Super Sonic, and Bruce Banner and the Hulk, are nearly identical. Many of the story arcs that Super experiences are echoes of ideas Marvel have explored with the Hulk. If you ask me, it's an intriguing prospect to have Sonic change so dramatically in his super form, and it introduces a distinct disadvantage to transforming into Super Sonic that isn't present in the games. Sonic can't control the transformation, and when it does happen, he puts his friends at risk as well as his enemies. Just as Bruce Banner's transformation into the Hulk was due to gamma rays, Sonic's original transformation into Super was due to the immense power of the Chaos Emeralds. In the comics, when the Emeralds are united in one place, they become increasingly combustible unless they're kept at sub-zero temperatures. The first time that Sonic and the Freedom Fighters gathered the Emeralds together in one place, they discovered this the hard way. The Emeralds let off a blast, simultaneously transporting themselves back into the safety of the special stage, but also causing Sonic to transform into Super Sonic for the first time. Interestingly, the Chaos Emeralds have an absorbent power. They absorb evil, but the flip side of this power is that when they do combust, they have the potential to transform beings into evil entities. This is what actually happened to the kindly Dr. Kinterbor, who of course became Dr. Robotnik. So Sonic got off quite lucky that the evil transformation wasn't permanent. In the early run of the comics, Super Sonic was essential in getting the good guys out of trouble, often being required to take on some of the more powerful Robotnik creations, like Mecha Sonic from Sonic & Knuckles, and Commander Brutus, a particularly powerful robot, who was the first villain to truly beat Sonic. Unfortunately, every single time Sonic transformed into Super, Super's violent tendencies would get the better of him, and threaten the lives of everyone around. After beating Mecha Sonic, for example, Super delivered a beatdown to Knuckles. Fortunately, Sonic was able to regain self-control before anything truly terrible happened. Super Sonic's out-of-control evil reached an apex with the Running Wild storyline. After falling into a pit on the floating island, where the Chaos Emeralds and Master Emerald were suspended, Sonic once again transformed into Super, but this time an even more deranged version, with fangs for teeth and the ability to shoot lasers from his eyes. The artwork by Richard Elson really added a new sinister dimension to Super. Super became hell-bent on hunting down and destroying Amy Rose. He's able to locate Amy and the rest of the Freedom Fighters, and indulges in a wild, violent rampage, but Amy manages to escape his wrath. When Super finally subsides and Sonic regains control, he surveys the terrible wreckage left behind, leading him to believe he's killed his own friends. In a state of grief, Sonic goes into a self-exile in a dingy underground bar, but is angered pretty quickly once again, triggering his super transformation and bringing his location to the awareness of Amy. In the subsequent battle with the Freedom Fighters, Amy manages to utilize one of those star signposts from the early Sonic games to suck the evil super form from Sonic, making them two entirely separate entities and banishing Super to the special stage, which is like an alternate dimension. Booting Super Sonic into the special stage was only a temporary fix. It wasn't long until he re-emerged, allied with a group of gothic villains called the Sidewinder Gang, led by Lord Sidewinder. Sidewinder struck a deal with Super. If he could bring Sonic to Super, then Super would permanently join the gang. Sidewinder fulfilled his end of the bargain, bringing Sonic to his mansion after personally bailing Sonic out of jail for another offense. It's a long story. However, Super quickly turned on his new allies and ran wild once again at the sight of Sonic, his new nemesis. After a crazy brawl that involved Sonic, Super, the Sidewinder gang, the Chaotix, and the Freedom Fighters, the next plan to stop Super came courtesy of the Chaotix and their companion, the Omniviewer, a mysterious, incredibly powerful screen-like entity. Sonic was able to kick Super into the Omniviewer, trapping him in a state of suspended animation. For added security, the Omniviewer was also locked up in a prison-style asteroid. It seemed that Super had been defeated once and for all. Once again though, even this wasn't enough to stop Supersonic. The Chaotix kept an eye on Super, and couldn't help but notice that he was subtly moving, even though he was meant to be in a state of suspended animation. Super was simply too powerful and threatened to break free from his imprisonment. His immense power allowed him to charge himself up and then unleash a blast equivalent to that of a giant electron bomb. The blast was powerful enough to free him from his imprisonment and at the same time disable all of Robotnik's robots on planet Mobius. Super was free and threatening to destroy Mobius once again, coming into conflict with Sonic and the Freedom Fighters. The immense power required to break free from the Omniviewer, however, slowly robbed Supersonic of his powers, forcing him to flee the battle. Later, it also robbed Super of his memory too. This starts a really fun sequence of events. While being a wanted criminal for his violent behaviour, Super wanders around rather naively and ends up lodging with a pair of pensioners, Madge and Arthur, and applies for a regular job at a coffee shop called the Groovy Train. I thought it was really endearing to see this formerly evil character living a quiet life, almost like a child. This is a really interesting phase of Super's history. He's haunted by nightmares of his more demonic side, but manages to suppress the urge to let that powerful demonic side take over, even when faced with imminent threats. It makes him a really sympathetic character. For example, when the Groovy Train is invaded by Biohazard, one of the Sidewinder gang, Super resists the urge to use his powers to help. Super befriends the Groovy Train's owner, Ebony the Cat, and her buddy Pajamas, both of whom have some mystical powers. They use their powers to scan Super's memories and become fully aware of Super's dark, uncontrollable side. They vow to keep him safe and to keep him calm, but Super's evil tendencies did erupt once in the presence of Ebony, when he was forced to use his powers to save a falling monorail. Fortunately, Ebony and Pajamas were able to quickly wipe his memory before too much damage was done. Ebony managed to keep Supersonic safe and helped him live a quiet life for years until the comic's final ever storyline. Supersonic's story culminated with an adaptation of Sonic Adventure. The creature known as Chaos is a sympathetic villain in Sonic Adventure, but in Sonic the Comic he's completely different. Chaos is actually a Dracon, an ancient race of fish creatures who were once at war with the Echidnas. One particularly nasty Dracon was imprisoned by the Echidnas, but was transformed by the radiation of the Chaos Emeralds into the watery creature known as Chaos, who relies on Chaos energy to survive. Chaos and Supersonic function in pretty much the same way. The longer they're away from Chaos energy, the weaker they become. And by the events of Sonic Adventure, Super's quiet lifestyle had caused him to wither and to age terribly. Hoping to revitalize him, Ebony leads the weakened Super to the site of Perfect Chaos, who was successfully swatting the Freedom Fighters away like flies. Super was easily able to absorb all of Perfect Chaos's power for himself, completely obliterating Chaos in the process. Supersonic saved the day once again, until the inevitable happened, and Super went on one last rampage after getting that sweet Chaos energy rush. The final panels of the comic end with Ebony using her magical powers to recombine Super and Sonic into one entity again. Super's rage subsides one final time, and with a sense of uncertainty, Sonic seems hopeful that he'll be able to control his evil side going forward. As it turns out, This Sonic Adventure adaptation from the year 2000 was the last original storyline the comic would see. For its final 2 years, Sonic the comic would consist entirely of reprinted stories. One final question remains: how big has Fleetway Supersonic's influence been? Officially, quite small, it seems. Supersonic's personality still hasn't been explored in such depths in the games, though interestingly Supersonic's eye colour is sometimes depicted as red, like in Sonic Adventure. Apparently there was an evil Supersonic character who briefly appeared in the Archie comic books who might well have been a homage to Fleetway, though I'm honestly not too familiar with that storyline or character. Unofficially, Sonic the Comic continued online as a fan webcomic. I haven't had the chance to read through it, so I can't comment on their treatment of Supersonic, but I may well discuss it in the future. Nigel Kitching once explained that had the comic continued, he had an idea to reveal that Ebony had absorbed Supersonic, rather than fusing him again with Sonic. It's just a rough idea he had for a future storyline, but in all honesty, I kind of like the way Sonic the comic ended, on a note of ambiguity. It's no wonder that Supersonic has become Fleetway's best remembered character. His story is truly tragic. Just as he managed to control his evil side, his physical body began to fail him. It seems he was destined to refuse with Sonic, lest he either perish or embrace his demonic side permanently. And that ends the ballad of Fleetway Supersonic. There are plenty more interesting and creative Fleetway characters to explore beyond Supersonic, so if you have fond memories of the comics, feel free to recommend another character to cover, or another character from the video game series to cover. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out this playlist for the Ashura video and any future character biographies too. If you enjoyed, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing for more Sonic and gaming stuff in the future. Thanks, and hopefully I'll see you next time.